Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reed of the Future Pastimes, and in this video I'm going to be talking about a power alliance in Dune that I call the Guerrilla Alliance. And that's not jungle guerrilla, it's like guerrilla warfare. And that is an alliance between Moritani and the Fremen. And the reason I call it the Guerrilla Alliance is because this is an alliance that is well suited to using guerrilla tactics and really harassing to try to get to a point where they can win the game. And that manifests itself in a couple of different ways. So let's take a look at what the alliance brings. First of all, the Fremen have their 3 free revival, which 3 is, doesn't seem like a very big number, but in terms of free revival each round, it's actually pretty decent. And because of that, the Fremen can get into some battles where they can dial high and really put other players on the defensive because they know that they're going to be able to get 3 of those forces out of the tanks in the next round. And they're also at full strength without needing any spice to enhance themselves. And with the Fedaykin, if one of those is the force, you're really talking about 4 strength that is relatively disposable. And this is enhanced by the alliance ability that Moritani are going to be giving the Fremen. And that is, when your ally loses a battle that had a winner, they may keep 1 treachery card that they played in the battle that they would have been able to keep had they won, which means if the Fremen have got their hands on a weapon or defense, they're going to be able to keep using that card over and over again. So if they have the defense, they can get into some battles, hopefully protecting their leader because they have some strong leaders. So if they know, all right, I've got a shield and, I'm picking some adversaries to fight with that maybe don't have any poison, then they don't even need to dial that high. But now they've got Stilgar or Chani. And that is pretty hard to overcome. And even if they do lose, they're not going to lose that shield. And better yet, if they have a weapon, maybe they're killing off the other leaders. So again, even if they don't win. So it's a nice kind of a little extra boost that the Fremen can have to go in and start picking some fights. And, between their ability to not need spice for shipping, and revivals generally, and spice dialing in combat, hopefully Moritani is helping them to get some good treachery cards, even though Moritani is not really an economic faction. They're not an economic faction, although they do have a couple of ways they can pick up some spice that other factions cannot. And then, of course, the other way around, if Fremen have picked up some spice from spice blows or from killing leaders and winning battles, then they can use that spice to help pay for shipping and help pay for treachery cards for the Moritani, which is, standard sort of alliance thing. But that's one of the benefits of the Fremen is when they're part of an alliance, they're the shared spice between the 2 factions, and granted with limitations, but really only one of the factions needs most of that spice. So normally with 2 other factions, just about any of the 2 factions in there, they both have an equal need to use spice for shipping, for treachery cards, maybe even for revival. So that's always one of the benefits that the Fremen bring to an alliance, is that they have some expenses that don't need to be paid by anybody. Now, the other reason that this is a guerrilla alliance is because of the very nature of the Moritani and their faction abilities. One being, of course, the terror tokens. The other being their assassinate leaders advantage. And this is a way that they can also pick up a little bit of spice. And it's a good way for them to, you can leverage the fact that you can do this assassinate leaders thing to your advantage as Moritani, just by maybe suggesting somebody throw to you, or you say, I don't want to get into a fight, because if I don't win that fight or whatever the case may be, I'm going to be killing one of your leaders. So I think not a lot of people exploit that fact when they're playing Moritani is that you can, and sometimes it's even a bluff, but you can use that as a way to get your way in some cases. But the real strength of the terror tokens is that they can act as a deterrent. And one of the nice things about the Fremen is that they can bring in a large number of forces for free into roughly half the board. So it's easy enough for them to get to 4 of the 5 strongholds in the game. And the Moritani can use their terror tokens as a way to either bolster a stronghold where they or their ally are. So if they've got 5 forces in the stronghold and there's a terror token, a lot of times other factions aren't anxious to go in there and find out what that terror token is. So it is a nice deterrent. They can also put one down in a stronghold where they don't have forces to, again, leave it open, maybe make it easier for them or their ally to get in there. So stronghold blocking becomes a little bit more challenging when you've got the terror tokens in there. But a lot of this really revolves around a very careful and considerate thought about the order in which you place terror tokens and the location. And you're thinking about, which ones do you place? So for sneak attack, for instance, a lot of times this is a good token to put in a stronghold where you have forces, because if it gets triggered, it lets you bring down 5 more forces for free into that territory. So it's a nice little backup plan, because somebody who ships into that territory, they may only be accounting for the number of forces that you have there, especially if you've already gone in storm order. Moritani goes, they ship a force down, so maybe they have 6 forces in there, and somebody's like, all right, I'm sending down 8 forces or 9 forces, and then boom, you trigger the sneak attack, and now you've got 10 forces there, or actually 11 if you were at 6. So boom, you're outnumbering your adversary, which may be just what you need to do in order to pull off that win. So using those terror tokens, using the ones that can have a big impact, and knowing about the best way to deploy those. The assassination one is a nice one to put down in a place where you are hoping to trap somebody and get them to lose. Hopefully, it's going to be a random leader, but hopefully it's going to be a pretty high value one. And you'll get spice for that as Moritani. Another one that I like to use is the sabotage one. When that is this one here, where somebody comes in and you trigger that, you're going to draw a random treachery card from them and discard it. And then after which you can then give them a card from your hand. And if you've got, worthless card or something that is just, maybe a cheap hero or something that you don't mind getting rid of, and they're probably not going to be thrilled about getting, which is a nice thing. I think the big effect there with the sabotage is somebody's losing a random treachery card. And if they only have 1 weapon or 1 defense, there's a 25% chance, at least, maybe more, because if they don't have a full hand, losing a card could be a much bigger deal. If they only have 2 cards, 50-50, that you're going to get the one that they don't want you to get. So that is what is nice about that. And of course, if the Moritani are in 2 strongholds and end up having to battle in both of them, or if they're in more, but getting to battle in at least 2 of them, they're going to be able to gain Duke Vidal. And so it's got to not be in the tanks. So, you want to be careful. I mean, when I play Moritani, I try not to get into battles into 2 different strongholds until I'm really thinking about going for the win. And that's a good time to pick up Duke Vidal. You're going for the win. 6 strength, no traitor card. That is a pretty handy thing to have. And then along the way, I'm looking at trying to exploit the assassinate leaders thing for as long as I can. This is an advantage that can run out of juice at any moment, by which I mean if you use it and then at the end of the round you're going to draw a new traitor card. If you get one from a faction that you've already assassinated, then now you just have a traitor card. Or if you draw one of your own leaders, well, now you don't really have that advantage anymore, nor do you have a traitor. So you got to be really careful, not really careful, but I like to use it as much as I can. And when I have run out of gas with that, that's when I start to try to make deals to get people to not force me to use my ability. Of course, when you're going for the win, then you're probably not going to be able to make those deals. But if the stars align for you as Moritani, then maybe you've got a traitor that you can use at that point. So that's what's kind of nice. It's what I like about ability. I mean, sometimes it's really going to work for you. Sometimes it won't. But yeah, if you can get a couple of assassinations and then maybe you have a traitor waiting to happen when you are going for the win, that is great. And of course, you know, when you're using the terror tokens as one kind of deterrent, the fact that so many Fremen can quickly and cheaply put a lot of forces into a stronghold, that becomes its own deterrent. So a stronghold that has 6 Fremen and a Fedaykin in there, that's 8 strength, which a lot of factions, they don't really want to take on 8 strength. So again, you know, depending on the mix, you know, Harkonnen with a great hand of 8 cards, or the Bene Gesserit with some tricks up their sleeve, maybe are willing to take on a big group of Fremen. But again, what happens is they're probably still going to have to dial very high if they do fight you. And, you know, the Bene Gesserit are getting 1 force out. You know, Harkonnen are getting 2, but 3's better. Getting 3 out each round is a big deal. So this is an interesting, what I like about the Guerrilla Alliance is it's an interesting, thoughtful one where it's not super flashy in terms of, oh, we've got this great combat strength, but they do have some strength in combat that is enhanced by the other allies. So that fact that the Fremen, they get a hold of at least 1 good treachery card for a battle plan, then they're going to be able to keep that card even if they lose. So knowing that, they should throw their weight around and really situate themselves in some strongholds and gather their strength there. Again, if they can get 10 forces in one and 10 forces in another, that's really formidable. 10 Fremen forces in a stronghold, it's really hard to overcome that. You know, you can get the Emperor or the Guild can have a doom stack of a lot of forces in there. Of course, the Sardaukar aren't going to help the Emperor against the Fremen, but it's going to be very costly, and they both have a slow revival rate. So it's going to be costly for them to revive as well. So let me know what you think about the Guerrilla Alliance. Let me know if you've ever seen it in action, Fremen and Moritani. I think it's a pretty interesting one. Next time I'm one of these 2 factions and the other one is in the game, I very much will want to try to get into this alliance and see what we can do with it. There you have it. That's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.